Greetings everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias. Today we have a package from, this is already open, from LDY Sirus, baby, for the Sirius V4. One of the last videos that I did was literally talking about how the Prisma Pro was like one of the last great Balisongs in the $200 price range. I shouldn't say last great Balisongs, but one of like the last truly special, remarkable Balisongs. And of course, someone rightfully commented that the Sirius V4 now exists, and LDY has brought the price down from the previous 200. Actually, I think the Sirius used to be like 240 USD, down to 150. That is right, $150 gets you a 7075 aluminum live blade that by all accounts just looks incredible. Now, I haven't actually like seen too much on this thing. I was waiting to get mine in because it usually takes a little bit, but this thing by all accounts really is shaping up to be the next big thing in the 200 or sub $200 price range. I think LDY already has a commanding lead, in my opinion, in the sub $100 price range. So I assume with the Sirius V4, they are now taking aim with the sub $200 price range. Let's take a quick look at this case, because it's the same case that the Sirius used to come in. You can see where the extra blade used to go, but now they include, looks like, extra hardware, including bushings. This actually thick, like, plastic card, which I'm assuming NFCs into the statistics page, or the specification page. Whole bunch of band-aids. Ooh, a microfiber cloth in white, which is a choice, but still, nonetheless, a microfiber cloth. And what has become my personal favorite screwdriver to use just in general, the LDY puck driver, complete with 3 different bits. Wow. They're like magnetized together too. Are these all T10? They are. But man, do I love this thing. I thought I lost it at Blade Show and I was really sad. But thankfully I didn't. This driver, as much as I am having issues storing the bits, is really, really cool. Probably, like I said, one of my favorite drivers in the entire community, besides the glider Bally driver, but 2 different things, honestly. That's more of a torque-based driver. This is more just kind of like, this is kind of like the squid keychain one that they have, except you can actually get good torque for the screwdriver. But honestly, really solid package. Now, this is the Sirius V4. This is what the Corvus directly influenced. You remember when they released the Corvus, they said that they'll be taking feedback from the Corvus and implementing it into the next version of the Sirius. And just looking at them, you can really see that influence. You can see they carried over this surface texturing from the Corvus, although it is much less pronounced than it looks. The Corvus is almost like that kind of sandpapery feel to it, which is actually really nice. I like the Corvus quite a bit for that. This doesn't really have that. They went for a far more understated look, or understated feel, for the Sirius V4, which is very cool. And it looks like they sent me the cyan one, which is actually what I guessed. Figured they might send the blue one to Denden, and I think Dasuko got a purple one, and Jack got a black one, so I figured I was probably in line for the more green teal, which is actually perfect because it's what I wanted. Now let's see if they gave me, which blade they gave me. This comes in Tonto and Kukri. Oh, they gave me I think this is the Kukri one. I'm pretty sure this is the Kukri one, and it looks so cool. The Sirius V4 just looks incredible. I mean, look at this thing. Interestingly enough, the Kukri one actually weighs less than the Tonto one, so we'll have to see balance-wise how this goes. But for 150, has LDY created what I would believe is the next Prisma Pro? I assume they're just going to have created the next Corvus. The Corvus was 140, and it was such a sick flipper, but you couldn't get it because they only made a certain amount of them. So I'm really hoping this kind of brings back the Corvus in such a way that makes me understand why they ended up discontinuing the Corvus. We'll see though. Looking at it really quick, 7075 aluminum, bushings, extra hardware on the box. Not much grip as I thought. Like this is, I think it's just a laser pattern. I don't even think there's any actual milling going on there. There is some milling here, which you can feel, but I'm just going to give it a flip. Let's see how the Sirius V4 flips. Did I already get myself? Is this sharp? Not as sharp as I typically know LDY stuff for. So of course, as is usually the case, the second that I comment on its sharpness is the time that I drive the tip right into my finger. Do as I say, not as I do. It is still sharp. And honestly, this thing flips pretty phenomenally. It's not as neutral as I know that the old Sirius used to be. Like the old Sirius had that very neutral feel to it. And I can already tell that it's certainly not as, I don't know what the word is. It's not as end lacking as the Corvus was, because the Corvus kind of became known for like being incredibly neutral to the point of not having a whole ton of handle weight. And that's kind of really what I ended up enjoying about the Corvus, was the fact that it felt so neutral. And it had like that kind of lack of handle weight. Even if it made some tricks harder, it made for an ultimately really fun, unique flipper. This is certainly, at least the kukri version, which I believe this is. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure this is the kukri version. Definitely a little bit more handle bias here. I'm not noticing... I can't tell yet if it's because there is more handle weight here or if because there's less blade. Because there's less blade weight. I would have to directly compare the weights of these two blades. But like there definitely is a little bit more wobble on the fans, which, you know, is usually characteristic of a little bit more handle bias. And definitely a little more lag, I would say, getting into something like a choker fan than I would typically like. But honestly, this thing flips really good so far. This is just first impressions. This will change as time goes on, so be sure to tune in to when I get more acquainted with it, I spend some more time with it, and I get some full opinions on it. Right now, it kind of just feels like, you know, it's a good standard handle bias. Not even like a crazy handle bias, though. Like, it doesn't seem like it's crazy handle bias until I go and try and do like a choker fan on it. Then you really kind of feel that drag that it has. But beyond that, it doesn't feel crazy handle biased outside of fans, I guess. 0Gs well, sticks to your finger well enough. The grip feels good. The grip is not coming from, you know, this what looks like a texture, because that texture really is, I think, just a laser thing. But the grip is coming from just the general overall handle pattern, the sharpness that comes from that. It doesn't feel as refined as something like the old Sirius did, but keep in mind that the Sirius that I'm comparing this with is a polished one, so that actually probably makes it feel a lot smoother than it was. But just comparing it to this Sirius right now, this is the Sirius V2. Feels remarkably the same. Maybe the Sirius V2 has a little bit more blade weight to it. Doesn't have as much drag on the fans. I actually imagine the Tonto blade would fan a little bit better than this, but it kind of seems like this is just going to be like a good solid performer for 150. But I am unfortunately, like, so far, it just kind of feels like it's going to be, hey, this is a solid performer. One that I can recommend to people, but one that I don't entirely know how I feel of myself. Because it is just very standard, kind of not far, but not super within my preferences. I like those longer, more neutral flippers. Something like the new Barracuda. This doesn't really provide that experience, but again, it's not bad by any means. I think this is going to end up being one of the stronger competitors in that sub $200 price range, which is great to see because I really do feel like that price range has been neglected lately. So to see LDY come in and say, hey, we made the Sirius just as good as it used to be, but way cheaper, and, you know, without that trainer blade, is pretty cool. So I'll have to see how this develops over the course of the next few days. So far, I like it. Struggling a little bit on the choker fans just because I'm used to something a little bit more neutral, or maybe even with a little bit more momentum. Maybe it'll end up just being that it doesn't have a ton of momentum. I don't know. I'm going to have to spend a little bit more time with it before I fully get my thoughts on something like that. But for now, suffice it to say, it delivers. The Sirius V4 definitely delivers. This was sent to me for free for the purpose of these videos by LDY, but they did not influence my opinions in any way. In fact, they didn't really tell me anything about what they were sending me, which is why I was so excited to open it, because I wasn't sure if I was getting the Tonto or what color I was getting. I did actually get the exact one that I wanted, the Kukri with that kind of greenish blue, which is super sick. Thank you, LDY. Huge thank you to them for sending this thing out. Huge thank you to you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the follow-up video when I get my full thoughts on this thing. Chaplain's well. I'm realizing I didn't talk about the Chaplain. Yeah, this thing's pretty sick. First, I'll just answer this question now because I know I'm going to get it. What do you think is better, the Corvus or the Sirius V4? I think the Sirius V4 is going to end up being the more objective, better flipper, but I might currently prefer the Corvus just to my preferences. We'll have to see how that goes. So, until then, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This thing is beautiful, and I can't believe it's so cheap. Holy cow. Later.